What's up, everybody? What a beautiful day in Hungary. It is my pleasure to meet you all. Let me do a little bit introduce about myself before we get started. My name is Xuan, and today I will be your tour guide for one of the most gorgeous architecture in human history, the Hungarian Parliament House, which is the building standing right in front of you all. It will be a long history about this building because the building represents a significant role in history of this country. Let's fly back to 1873 on this land. The city named Budapest was united from three cities, which are namely Buda, Obda, and Pest. 7 years after this city born, the Diet resolved to establish a new representative parliament building, expressing the sovereignty of the nation. The building was planned to face the Danube River. They hold an international competition, and the architect Imre Standel emerged as the victor. The building was started to build in 1885. But the architect Emil Stander lost his vision after 20 years of working and died in 1902, which is just 2 years before the architecture is fully complete. From the first day of the building born, it is a significant place where the country makes its law, and until now it is still functional after 100 years later. But the focus of our tour today will be the style of the architecture, because Parliament House of Hungary is a strong representative of Gothic Revival style, but it also contains elements from other architecture styles, such as architectural symmetry from Renaissance Revival style and the stylistic elements of Renaissance on the ceiling. The architect uses the style as a symbol of new Hungarian government. Hungary's Parliament House is one of the finest examples of Gothic Revival and Renaissance Revival architecture in the world today. If we need to talk about the style of Hungarian Parliament House, we will need to look at the London House of Parliament firstly, which is also called Palace of Westminster. When we look at this building, we will automatically be impressed by how magnificent it is. It has so many obviously pointed arches, not only on roof or those meeting room of the building, but also on the roof of both Victoria Tower and Elizabeth Tower. The decorative on all porches, domes, or roof include pointed elements. Other characteristic details include steeply pitched roofs and front facing. Those features define that this building style belongs to Gothic Revival. And when we return to take a look at the Hungarian Parliament House, we can see lots of similarity between those two buildings. The Hungarian Parliament House also has quite a lot of pointed arches on its roof, pointed elements on its windows and door decorations. Those strong similarity of pointed elements on the Hungarian Parliament House represent that the house belongs to Gothic Revival style, as same as Palace of Westminster. It will not be surprised if you know the history behind its architect Emil Standi, because he got his inspiration of the Hungarian Parliament House from Palace of Westminster. As we mentioned before, one of the most significant functions of the Hungarian Parliament House is to represent the nation's sovereignty. And at that time, British is the strongest country in Europe, even in the world. So, the Parliament building of British also represents the strength of the country, which has perfectly fit the goal that Hungarian government wants. After Hungarian parliament building was built, it obviously became the largest building in Hungary since its completion. People in this country are all proud of this architecture and believe it will show the strength of the country. The building has extensive surface, which is full of detailed handiwork. Its wall is pointed straight from ground to sky. Also, stained glass and glass mosaics add bronzer to the building and show how gorgeous it is. Those are all Gothic Revival style elements on this building. Now we have talked about those elements on this building that make it count as a Gothic Revival style building. Let's move on to talk about what kind of elements on this building that belongs to Renaissance Revival style. When we look at the difference between Palace of Westminster and the Hungarian Parliament, we will notice that the Hungarian Parliament has an enormous dome in the middle, but Westminster Palace doesn't have that. If we look at architecture in Renaissance, examples like St. Peter's Basilica and Duomo Santa Maria del Fiore and Tempio del Bramante, they are all have dome as one of the symbolic parts of their structure. Huge dome is the element that belongs to Renaissance Revival style. Now let's look back to this building. It has a symmetrical facade and a center dome. From outside looking, we can feel this huge dome has quite strong contrast with pointed arches in the other parts of the building. The dome is obviously symmetrical, but not just that. If we look at the two sides of the building as the dome is the center, we can find that the building is symmetrical as well, which is the second biggest difference between this building and Westminster Palace. Westminster Palace has two symbolic towers that are completely different in shape, function, and looking, and they make the palace unsymmetrical. The difference between these two buildings is built on purpose. Architect Imre Stendy took the tower parts out of the parliament to make it less palace-like, because they don't want people to say that they are plagiarism their parliament building from other country, obviously. And also in the history of Hungary, the country has strong history relevance with Roma. So the style of Renaissance Revival has been considered as one of its unique culture. Then Imre chose to use dome, which represents elements of Renaissance Revival style, to make the building of Parliament look prettier without any Gothic tower. When we come to the inside of the building, the Parliament is also largely symmetrical, and this is also elements of Renaissance that represent on this building. Each part carries important political and historical messages. The first place we see in the center is the center hall, which has a unique decagonal 16-sided shape, and it also makes the building even famous because of the shape of the hall. The prominent cupola in the middle refers to the unity of the legislature on the one hand, and was also the site of the joint sitting of the lower house and the upper house. There is a crown that has been displayed in the middle of the hall that for visitors to see since year of 2000. It is the Holy Crown of the Hungary. There are two identical parliament halls on the opposite sides of the building because the Hungarian National Assembly was originally a bicameral system. So, on both sides of the cupola are the lower and upper house chambers, which are exactly the same design, symbolically suggesting that the two houses had equal rights. Until today, one of the two halls is still in use for sessions of Hungarian National Assembly, and the other for ceremonies, conferences, and guided tours. Because of the important statues and historical meaning, the decoration inside of the building is magnificent as well. The lavish decor incorporates Gothic revival and Renaissance revival as well. Lots of furniture have strong Gothic revival style, and the ceiling is super high and pointed as well. On the other side, lots of painting that made on the roof and walls are Renaissance style. The lavish building decorated by using more than 40 kilograms of gold, including rare gold leaves. Gold leaves have displayed in many areas in this building, painting, wall, and particularly in the staircase and intricate ceiling design. Even is very huge amount of gold, but those gold is very thin, and when they are on decoration and have almost no weight on their own. So now we are standing at outside of the Hungarian Parliament House and looking at it again. After everything that I explained for you, and as we're going through the building, you must have your own opinion about how you think and look about this building, right? Let me briefly summarize a few points about the building that I mentioned before again, so just let you to memory. The Hungarian Parliament House is an architecture that the government built to celebrate the country, show its statues, and use for making law. The architect Emil Stanning got inspiration from the Palace of Westminster, which is a Gothic revival style architecture. But he moved Gothic towers from the palace and replaced it by using Renaissance style dome on this building. The whole building is symmetrical if we're looking from outside, which is also the feature of Renaissance revival style. The dome refers to the unity of the legislature, and the two identical parliament halls on the opposite side of the building represent equality of lower and upper house chambers. Decoration inside of the building is lavish, and lots of ceiling painting style and handiworks show strong elements of Renaissance revival style, but furniture inside the building shows more Gothic revival style. So now will be the end of our tour at the Hungarian Parliament House. It is a great architecture in human history, and I hope you all enjoyed it and learned something from me. I'm really glad to meet you all and look forward to seeing everybody come back again.